Today, a new library was released by Native Instruments, and it's called Circular. I didn't get an advanced copy of this, so I'm seeing it for the first time today. And all I want to do is have a really quick look at it, see if the sequencer does a few things that I feel are really important with these kinds of instruments. It does look like some things that are already out there in the market, some things by Native Instruments, some things by other manufacturers. And to me, there's a few things that make something like this usable. And let me just say that because I have a YouTube channel, I often dig into virtual instruments and then find, a few that I really would use in my own personal work, and then others that just kind of sit and collect dust on the virtual shelf. And this one could be one of those instruments for some people. And I want to make sure that this video shows you what's under the hood on the surface level. That doesn't make any sense. But, what's under the hood with this one, and is it something that you will actually use? What my main suggestion would be for Native Instruments and for pretty much every manufacturer of these kinds of virtual instruments is to have a really easy way for us to load a patch and for the maker of that patch to have communication with us to tell us some features about that patch, how we could reverse engineer it, and maybe if there's some kind of aspect of the patch that we don't like or some kind of aspect of the patch that we want to change, how do we do that? Where do we click? What do we do to work with that patch? Even a piece of software like this comes with 255 presets. That, to me, isn't enough. Having loads of patches in your software, especially software that's as complex as this one, really goes a long way to the user, because maybe you don't learn how to use something perfectly right off the bat, but you just keep finding fun patches and you start playing with them, and then you go, you know what, this rhythm isn't quite right. Maybe I'll figure out how to tweak it. And you start digging in and you figure out, okay, how do I take this from a triplet feel to maybe a 4/4 kind of feel or something like that. And if there aren't enough patches, you might not do that. So there is a solution for this that I think Native Instruments could do with this virtual instrument and with others. And that would be to release maybe expansions, even if they're just a few dollars. In order for us to keep excited about them and keep using them and dig even deeper, we just need that constant reminder. Oh yeah, you bought this virtual instrument. You've probably forgotten about it. Here's some patches. Here's 20 patches. Here's 100 patches. This is a very complex piece of software. So that was a really long intro. Thanks for making it this far. Let's go check out what this thing's all about. First thing I'm going to say about this software that makes me so happy to see is that it is high resolution. I've seen a number of contact libraries, or whatever you want to call these kinds of instruments, even in the last year, that are using maybe an old version of how this stuff used to be laid out. And if you were to zoom in on it, it would get really gnarly looking, like really pixelated. And this is zoomed in 150%, and it looks fantastic. Everything is nice and smooth. Hopefully all contact patches from now on will have this nice high-res interface. And then when you look at what this piece of software is, it's a sequencer and a sample player, and you can load your own samples in, which we're going to try here today. And it has 4 different slots where you can load samples in. And now this and other makers have made these ones that have 4 slots. In each slot, you can do all sorts of things like a sequencer, and you can have crazy sequences that either are arpeggiated. So playing off the notes that you're playing on the keyboard, if you're playing a C minor chord, it will cycle through those notes. So let's load this up from scratch. Okay, so here's an example of a patch that has arpeggiated kind of abilities. I play a minor chord. Now if I play a B flat chord, it's not letting me play a B flat chord. And that'd be kind of confusing if you were somebody who was opening this up in the first time and you wanted to play in the key of C sharp major. That's not C sharp, here's C sharp. That's definitely not a C sharp chord. So what it's doing right now is it's keeping every note that I'm playing. It's keeping every note that I'm playing in the key of A minor. And that's because this whole sequence here is set to A minor. So the very first thing you need to know is about this little key thing right here. I tried a bunch of other patches, and it looks like it's staying in whatever key you've got set up top. Now that's a little bit of an important detail. So let's change this to chromatic. So now if I play a C sharp major chord, we actually have a C sharp major chord. Okay, what it means is that you can now play any notes on the keyboard. It's always going to keep you in the key of A minor. So that's going to work with your song. And especially if you're not a keyboardist, you could just sort of play triads. And it's going to keep you in the key of A minor no matter which notes you play. Here's a little hot tip for you. If you just play all the white notes, you're playing in the key of A minor anyways. But okay, so let's try some of these sequences out. Okay, so this Black Sun one sounds neat. Let's try that. Let's play one note. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, that's really neat. So you can hear all these kind of polyrhythms going on. I do feel like this virtual instrument is going to be really useful to film composers. You could get away with just a simple sequence that they've built and use that as like a main patch for a scene, really, because you got so many different things going on at the same time. And if you do want to try just seeing which thing is actually making which sound, you can just solo it. And then once you decide, okay, I like that, but maybe I don't like the sequence that's happening with that sound, you jump over to the sequencer, and here you can see the sequencer for each different slot. There's 4 different slots. If I click to the note here, okay, I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but it looks like this maybe gets our note kind of in our sequencer. Let's take this. Uh-oh, it's only letting me go 1224. So it does look like these different lanes here are all sort of cycling through on their own, which, man, that gets really complex. And not only that, of course, each different layer here gets its own sequencer. It looks like we've got different samples even in the sound lane. Oh boy. So you can hear that room hits happening right there. What if we go Option, click to copy a sound, and then Option Shift click to paste. Okay. Okay, so you can hear that I've copied the same sample to the second slot. And these are going by 8th triplet steps, whereas this one is going by 8th notes. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. All right. Let's try some more patches. I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm doing here. Okay, so only letting us do octaves, which makes sense if I'm playing chords. Okay, so from what I can tell, all the patches I've looked at so far aren't doing, say, a sequence of notes that would play like a C, then jump up to a G and an A and an E or whatever, and do a sequence of actual played notes. What I want to know is if anybody has found out, and maybe I'll pin the comment, can you actually create a sequence of notes like you would, say, in a play instrument, where you could say every time you held down a C, it would cycle between any notes of your choosing. So C, G, B flat, C, E, C, something like that. And it would cycle through those notes. Is that not what this one's about? So maybe with the note, we can't do that? I don't know. Somebody let me know in the comments if you've already figured that out. What I should probably do is set this to chromatic. If I set it to chromatic, now I can play any chords I want. That sounds pretty cool. Okay, this one feels like a very pulsing, rhythmic, classic film style pad. And for me, I'm probably not going to love all 4 layers all the time. Like that's probably not going to happen very often. So let me solo them. We got a piano. We got a synth. That's actually pretty cool. I'm not crazy about how the patches are laid out here. Like it would be neat to have something more than just atmospheres and sequences. Well, that's cool. Okay, so you can sort of play and get sort of mixed results with that as well. The last thing I want to show you and check out is how we can maybe initialize a patch. I don't know if we can actually fully initialize a patch. Like, did figure out we can turn off these other layers, and then we can go to this layer right here and scroll right to the very top, and we have an initialize button. So we hit the initialize button, and then now what I'm going to do is drag in a bunch of samples that I've just recorded. So all you have to do is grab your samples, drag them over, and in Cubase you kind of have to wait a minute and then it'll show up, and then you drag and drop right onto this first little block here. And you can see the 7 samples. I went around and recorded just a couple things in my studio, and yeah, me clearing my throat, me hitting a note on a piano, playing a note on the trumpet, playing a note on the trombone. I'm really, really great at trumpet and trombone. I'm totally being sarcastic right now. Okay, so there's velocity right here. I can turn off some. Nice out of tune guitar note. Okay, cool. I do recommend doing something ridiculous like this because your brain can start making some actual connections of what's happening, right? Probability just means, you know, is this going to actually, what's the percentage that's going to actually fire? And then note, we can take it up an octave. Okay, and then here at the bottom, it looks like we have, what do we take the pan it to the left, okay. And then we turn this one to the right. Hey, okay. Starting to make some sense of what's happening here. You can click on each one and have very different settings for each single note. Okay, that actually could be kind of cool. I'm starting to see like the power of this thing. Why would you want to use this as opposed to just playing a bunch of notes in yourself? And I think it's just because there's so much different creative things you can do to each single note. Okay, that's cool. But it's a very unique tool. I do feel like it is quite complicated, so some more video tutorials that dig deep into each of these I think would be really valuable. The other thing I didn't mention is that it does have MPE and Poly Aftertouch capabilities. So if you have a keyboard with Poly Aftertouch, okay, so if I push harder after, it's changing the pitch, it's bringing the pitch up a bit. Oh, that's fun. Oh, that's really neat. And we could also get this hooked up with things like the Osmos once I figure out how to actually control MPE with it. This is an MPE keyboard. This is a Poly Aftertouch keyboard. Two very different things, but they sort of seem like they do similar things. This one, what it can do is it can actually play. You can hold down a whole bunch of notes and just control that Poly Aftertouch on one single note. And you'll actually see it right here in the software. Right? You see how I'm pushing differently? Anyways, that's what you get with Poly Aftertouch. With MPE, you get more than that. You can actually do like pitch change per note and stuff like that. This is not an MPE capable keyboard, Poly Aftertouch. That's all I got for this video today. Nothing too fancy, but hopefully it helps you decide if this is something right for you. Anyways, I will have an affiliate link, so do click the affiliate link if you are going to pick it up, or even if you're just going to check it out, because it does help me out. And I got to say, things have really fallen off on affiliate links on the channel. And so I'm really just having to do this for the love of doing it. And honestly, the love of doing it is when I hear people actually are appreciative of these kinds of things. So let me know in the comments. Use the affiliate links. If you're going to buy something, really helps me out and helps me justify taking time away from work to make these kinds of videos. So anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next video.